Hello everyone, Stephen Burns is here. So it's time to jump right into Photoshop, and I want to really talk about the workflow in Photoshop, particularly for the aspects of projects that we're going to be using it for in terms of design and commercial purposes. Now there's a variety of ways to use Photoshop. For photography, for 3D, for digital painting, for graphic design. And Adobe has set up some workflow interfaces. So under the window menu, actually I'm going to click it, tap on it, and then you're going to go down to Workspace. And what Adobe has done is set up some default workspaces for those of you who are going to be working with it in a particular capacity. For example, as I mentioned, 3D, graphic design, motion, painting, photography is what they have here. Now you can customize your own workspaces by simply coming over here and tagging new workspace. So however your workspace is set up, tag new workspace, and that's going to set it up for you. Now I'm going to show you one that I would recommend. If you want to choose from any of these, I would say go on over to your graphics and web, and if we click on that one, you will see that the interface changes a little bit. All right, now I'm going to share with you a way that I personally like to work, and then I'm going to show you how to customize the workspace for your particular setup that you choose. So I'm going to show you how we set this up. Then you, of course, on your own, you can set it up in any capacity that you like. So I like to work with very few palettes open as possible. First of all, but before I talk about the palettes on the side, I want to talk about this little toolbar here. By default, it's a nice slender long toolbar on the left hand side. Even when you first load Photoshop on, that's the way it's going to be set up. Now I'm going to peel it off. So I'm going to come to the dark area, top right hand corner of the bar, and a little thin little line. Click it, it will drag it off. On the top left-hand corner, you have a little double arrow here. I'm going to target that. This is the way that I prefer you guys to work with the double layer palette, because it's easier to track these visually when you're looking for your tools. A single layer, if I click it again, it's a little bit harder to kind of remember where things are. This way, I can see, okay, I know I have a relationship between tools from right to left. Now, another way that I prefer to work with is very few palettes as possible. Now, I'll set my desktop this way. I can click and hold on this very top dark area and drag everything off at one time. So tap down and hold. Now what I'm doing is I'm using a Wacom tablet. For all these videos that you're going to be watching, I will be using a Wacom tablet. So it drags everything off because it's basically called sticky menus. I'm going to pull off the layers. I'm going to click and hold on the dark area on the right hand side of layers and just drag that off there. And inside the layers, I like to have my paths and I like to have my channels in here as well. I don't see them up here, so where all of your layers are, say for example you close out your layers, they're all going to be listed under the Windows menu. Now this you should remember from your beginning Photoshop class, and the goal here is not to get you updated for those who don't know Photoshop at all. This is not a beginning Photoshop class, but I will be going over some basics so it helps you to get the workflow going that I prefer to have in Photoshop, at least for this particular video. So all of your panels are listed under the Windows menu. So anything that you don't see open here, they're listed here. Now I prefer to have my channels, so I'm going to come up here and look for channels as in alphabetical order. I'm going to target it, and it popped up here in the very bottom left-hand corner. And I'm going to click and hold on the tab, and I'm going to just place it. You can see a little blue highlight around your box there that's saying, okay, we can drop that there. Just drop it on in there. It makes it a tab. So if I click on each of these tabs, the properties for these particular commands are going to pop up. The next thing I prefer to use is going to be your, let's come right down here and let's look for this. It's going to be your paths, right? Under the P's, alphabetical order. And we're going to be using this quite a bit. In fact, we're going to start understanding paths, because once you understand how to use paths, you will understand how to use Illustrator, and you're going to understand pretty well how to use Adobe InDesign, as we're going to be combining all three of those programs together for a commercialized workflow that's going to make your whoever hires you very happy. So I'm going to click and hold on the path menu, drag it inside here. I have my layers, my paths, and my channels. Now the next thing I like to have is my properties right attached to the bottom. I can see it right here. It's a little tab right there. So I'm going to click and hold and drag the properties on over and place that over here. Now, some of you like to use libraries. Now, Adobe gives you quite a few gigabytes of storage space, and your libraries is accessing that space. So when I click on libraries, because I'm logged into my account, all of my libraries that I've uploaded to Photoshop online, or at least to that free space, they're showing up here. And if I click here on, I can view by group, I can view by type. And if I drop this here, you can see these are all customized menus that I created. 3D assets and textures, AEL, that's Adobe Educational Leaders Conference 2018. When I click on that one, you can see images that I uploaded up there from the conference. If I go to my artwork, I have a section on my server for just my artwork. So it's additional space that comes with your Creative Cloud license. So definitely play with that. Okay, so now some of you may prefer to have the libraries available. I recommend we just come over here and drag it and place it down with the properties just inside it right in the bottom there. Okay, we are definitely we'll definitely talk about comps later on, and we're definitely going to have use for characters, paragraphs of the sort, but we don't need them now. So I prefer to just bring them up as I need them. Okay, because your real estate here is very limited. So I don't like to be psychologically cluttering up my mind with a bunch of stuff on my interface. I want to use this, my unit interface, as if it's my blank canvas, and I want to start creating right now. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out here. Now, this is the workspace I prefer to work in to kind of get things going, and I'm gonna go over to Windows menu, Workspace, and if you come over to the side here, we have New Workspace. I'm gonna click it, and I'm going to call this workspace Steve's Favorite Workspace. And I'm also going to give it the option or the command by clicking all three of these boxes to also preserve my keyboard shortcuts, my menus, and my toolbars, the way it looks in this position and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now, all done. Now let's go back, Windows menu, Workspace. Let's go back and reset our workspace. I'll say Essentials Default. It goes back to down. This is the way it looks when you first load on Photoshop, but I'm going to go back and load the one that I want, which is right there under Steve's Favorite Workspace. Okay, and if I click it, it jumps right back to my original workspace. So keep that in mind, that this is a nice little workflow to be aware of. Okay, all right. So once again, I want to just specify that this is not teaching you the basics of Photoshop. I'm going to assume that everybody's have some working knowledge of Photoshop. What I like to get into is layers today, the importance of layers. I want to make sure everybody is up with layers, and because we're going to need them for the use of InDesign and as well as Adobe Illustrator. And you're going to need them in terms of organizing your whole creative workflow in terms of how one layer is going to interact with another for design purposes. Another workflow feature I want to just mention very quickly is the use of Bridge. Bridge is critical. File menu, browse in Bridge, or Alt-Control-0, okay? Or I believe that is Alt-Control-O, that might be O. Shift Control or Shift Command O also works. And if I just hold down the Shift and Command and hit the O, for Opera, it's the toggle for going back and forth between Photoshop and Bridge. So automatically, I have a folder here that I've accessed inside of Bridge called Vector Exercises. So inside this folder are some nice little files to work with, and but I organize all my work this way. I recommend that you do the same. Organize a folder for this class, and inside that folder you can put all your images in there that you want to work with, so that you don't have to go being disorganized trying to find things and pulling your hair out because you can't find things. So I organize all my images in a single folder. I call this student work files here, and inside student work files I have folders in here where I organize everything according to criteria: architecture and beaches and birds and blend modes and so forth. Okay, all right, so I'm going to focus, at least for this video, on the folder called vector exercises, because I want to get into this concept of selections and using vector tools. All right, I want to just kind of address selections very quickly, and then I want to go directly to vector tools. Now, you should be familiar with selections as a way of selecting localized imagery within your graphic file or your image, a photographic image, so that you can place that that image on its layer, or that localized information onto its own layer. So let's go over here and let's go ahead and grab the red shirt. Okay, so I have a color shirt. Now, to assist you, I set up all these files that you saw in the folder on a Google Drive. So simply log into your Google account. It's free. If you don't have one, join it. Google.com. I believe most students should have this, and then put in this URL link in your address bar. What it will do is it will attach this folder onto your Google Drive so that you don't have to go look for this again. All right, so if I come over here, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. So what I want you to do is to go to a blank page for your browser, go to the address bar, type in or drop in or type in the actual URL at the top there. Now this URL will be in your assignment sheet, so it'll always be there if you happen to forget. But once you're there, here it is. Under your shared with me folder, this student work files will always be there associated with your account, so you don't have to actually remember it every time. So I am working out of a folder. Now there is a you don't see the folder now. The folder I'm using is called vector files. Now I'm gonna, as you watch me here, I'm gonna come right over here, go find that folder. Okay, and I've got the folder right on my hard drive. I believe it's on my desktop. There it is, school files. Right down here is my student work files folder. I just created this folder for you, okay, for this particular video. And there's the vector exercises. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop that right into here while you're watching. Drag the whole folder there. So now, as it's uploading, as you can see, you will have access. There's vector exercises. Now you have access to the exact same files as I do. There they are. They're on the Google Drive. So now you can follow along with me. This is going to be a place where you're going to access all of your files that I'm utilizing for all of my various videos. Okay, so before we go any further, let's talk about Bridge very briefly here. This is going to be your window to your to everything on your hard drive system. This is going to be how you're going to access all the visuals before you bring them in Photoshop. I've noticed that many students don't use Bridge as often as they should. It's invaluable. So inside Bridge, I created a shortcut folder for my student work files. And now this is how it's done. Here you have several options. You've got the libraries. In Bridge, you can actually access your libraries. I have a folder for that, or a tab for this one here. If I go to, if I drop this down, you see this little pancake or a hamburger is what it's called. Three little lines here. This will allow you to show or not show particular tabs. Okay, and as well as other options. I can sort alphabetically. Or as last modified. I like alphabetical in this case. And the same thing over here for the content. Of my content And then the content, I can, enlarge or reduce the file sizes utilizing this little slider right down here at the bottom. Okay, enlarge or reduce the file viewing size, I should say, not just the size. So over on the left hand side, I have my libraries. I have favorites, which this is going to be very handy. I have my folders, which works like either your Window Explorer or your Finder on the Mac. So this has access to everything on your system. You can see my desktop here, all the various folders that I have associated. There's my school files folder. Right down here, I have a specific folder for the student files. Now, if you want to make a shortcut under your favorites so that you don't have to go looking for the stuff every time, go to the folder. I'm a target on student files, and we'll make a new shortcut because under the favorites, I've already created a shortcut for my there's one for the student files here. How about the vector images folder? So I will go right over here. All my photos are being shown here. I'm in a root of student work files. Inside student work files, I should have a new folder called vector exercises. I click on that and drag it on over, and you can see the little blue highlight there. I'm going to place it right above my student work file and drop it there. So now I don't have to remember where it is anymore. I can just click on vector exercises and it goes directly to the folder inside. All of these menus are resizable, so as I put my cursor on the little edge here, I get the double arrow sign. That denotes that I have the ability to click and hold and drag this to resize the paneling along the sides and or the top. Okay, so let's start talking about next. Let's start talking about selections. And then let's quickly graduate over to vector tools.